Today, I'm talking to the expert, Dr. Samantha Boardman. She's done countless studies on how exercise affects our psychology and our mental health. And today, we're talking specifically how exercise affects our mentality. And mentality is everything. When it comes to sport, entrepreneurship, study, success in general, it's all about your mentality. Today's video is sponsored by Mulliganbrothers.com, the best motivational clothing brand in the world, where you can now get the Rise and Grind series, Inspire Change series, and the Hardest Worker in the Room series in the link in the description. All the profits go back to supporting these projects and making these projects happen. Before that, how can we benefit our mindset through exercise? With the expert, Dr. Samantha Boardman. I'm your host, Jordan Mulligan. Let's jump into the video.
If I was to have somebody who was wanting to get into business, or an entrepreneur, or someone who's trying to be a high achiever, what benefits does the physical exercise have for a person like that?
Immeasurable benefits. I think, that if you want to be at your peak performance in your mind, if you want your focus and your ability to concentrate and your ability to lead, your physical health is going to shape that and affect that. And it's also, your physical health is also going to shape your mental health. Like, here's an interesting study looking at people who were EMTs. Those who had a stressful day, meaning there was a call that involved violence or a child. Those who had supportive relationships and had physical activity in their day were much more likely to be able to sleep well that night and then function better the next day. It buffers us, it protects us, it enables us to make good decisions, So I think for that sort of entrepreneurial spirit, that it's really valuable to anyone and to all of us who are trying to make good decisions every day. And here's this funny study from the University of Richmond. They were using rats, but there's application. I'll explain why in a second. Apparently, rats love Fruit Loops. It's like the delicacy of all time if you're a rat, and maybe if you're a person anyway. So some of the rats were given this Fruit Loop. It was sort of buried under their bedding. And so they would have to go, and to get to this Fruit Loop, they would have to physically exert themselves. They would have to burrow through and scratch away, and it would take them a few minutes to get to their Fruit Loop. The other group of rats were just given the Fruit Loop. They got to sort of hang out, think of them as what she called trust fund rats. They were sort of handed the Fruit Loop on a silver platter. Then both groups of rats were challenged. They were put in a different context where they had to actually swim across something. Rats can swim, they don't like to that much. The rats who had to forage for the Fruit Loop, who were, had to work at it, were physically more active, were much more likely to try and swim across this little pool. They also, when the Fruit Loop was put inside almost like a little cage that they had to go for, they tried about 70 times more than the rats who had just been handed the Fruit Loop. Like, when we're physically, working for something, it actually can make us more resilient.
Okay, so that's fantastic. Could you expand on that, the sort of idea that exercise and working towards something develops like a switch in mindset almost?
Absolutely. I think that, there's a long history though too of people who have been in athletics, in college, in high school also, who are excellent leaders, who are much more likely to persevere when faced with an obstacle off the field. And I think what this rat study really embodies is how the idea of sort of, kicking your heels up and doing nothing, and that temptation to be a couch potato we often think that that's how we're going to restore ourselves or replenish ourselves, or maybe that's how we need to, just by sort of sitting there, watching TV is going to be the best way to spend our free time. And yet, and I think all of us know this, we've all had a weekend where you just didn't really get out of bed much, and you maybe made it between your refrigerator and your bed or the sofa, and that was kind of the triangle you lived in, that by Monday morning, you feel awful. You actually feel worse and drained. But when you've done something, when you've stretched yourself in some way, physically or mentally, you feel replenished. Like, that is revitalizing. And I think that sense of vitality that you get from physical movement is essential, I think, to feeling physically and mentally strong. And like those, trust fund rats who just sat around and kind of drank, rat margaritas and were having a good time, that, maybe it was fine and great when the going was, when it was easy going and they were just handed their Fruit Loop. But when they were challenged, they fell apart. Like, they didn't have the wherewithal. They didn't have the experience of working for something, that they weren't able to persevere in the same way. And I think when we have those physical challenges and we push ourselves, we also have that amazing experience of what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi calls flow. Those experiences where we are just in the zone. And those are invaluable, right? Like, so when you feel you've lost time, you think, wait, I've been, lifting weights for 45 minutes. Where did the time go? That sense of just complete immersion, and you sort of forget about everything else around you. You're not ruminating, you're not thinking, but it's that wonderful combination of skill and challenge and where they collide. And those moments of flow, I think, we have fewer opportunities in our daily lives for them. We've got our phones and our devices that maybe we're checking all too often. And for flow, you need to just be in it, in the moment. You think of a swimmer, a marathon runner, somebody who's just in the zone, a musician even, where you're in that place where you're just focused on that one thing and you're not distracted. And it's really good for your brain. Like, that is revitalizing and restoring.
It's so funny you say that. We interviewed, I spoke to Cal Newport, who speaks about like flow and deep work just yesterday. And so in the offices right now, like, we've got areas, we've set them up so we can have that like sort of flow state. Do you feel that it's that the physical exercise, like having that flow in physical exercise, helps to carry it over into something like work or creating literature, or like you say, music? Does it help carry over? Does it have any carryover?
Absolutely. And you see people who have, who are usually, leaders in their field, whose expertise in one domain. We always hear of, oh, you really got to focus, do one thing and do it right. But actually, when you see people who are true who achieve excellence, typically in multiple, in one domain, they have other interests, they have other hobbies. Like, I think there's an interesting study looking at Nobel Prize winners in the sciences. And they didn't just do biology. They also had these other domains where they excelled, that were interesting, that were hobbies. A few years ago, I asked somebody, a young woman I was interviewing, what are your hobbies? And she looked at me like I was, from another century, and said, like, what do I collect stamps? And so I said, like, no, but what do you do outside of work? Because that, I think it's critical that you do things, if it's physical or if it's having other hobbies or other domains that actually illuminate the thing that you want to focus on. And it's something I've always encouraged in my patients as well, because I think it really does benefit their mental health, and it actually helps them excel in the domain that they want to. And it's, because it's usually those aha moments you don't have when you're focusing on the problem you want to solve. You have those aha moments in the shower. You have those aha moments when you're, in the gym, when you're not thinking about the thing you want to be thinking about.
Thank you so much to Dr. Samantha Boardman. I'm going to link Samantha's stuff all down below, and you can check out her stuff. She has fantastic resources that are free as well. So go check that out. But for me, I have sharpened, I like to think of it as a weapon. My mentality is my weapon. Your mentality is absolutely everything when it comes to trying to be successful in life. And if you want to be successful in life, you need the hardest, most impenetrable, strongest, most vicious mindset possible. And that's where exercise comes into it for me. If I am on doing deadlifts, if anyone would see me do deadlifts, I will do deadlifts until I pass out. And I'm not the best deadlifter in the world. No way near, not even close. But if you put a barbell and some weights next to me, I will lift it until I can't lift physically a single other rep. I will try and kill myself, which is not possible, but I'll try and kill myself with a deadlift bar. And it's that mentality that carries over into my mental mentality, into when I go into work, how much more work am I willing to put in? How much more work am I willing, how many more hours am I willing to stay awake than the next guy? Because I've sharpened it through exercise, through something that really was painful. When you get into work, let me tell you something, when you're doing 3 or 4 sleepless nights in a row, that is a lot harder than picking up 300 kilos off the floor. That's a lot harder than doing 1,000 reps on some exercise. That's a lot harder than running a marathon. For me, the mental drain from trying to be one of the best workers in the room as an artist, as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, as an athlete over the long term, those gym sessions are just tools to try and sharpen your mind for the real race, and that's the marathon. And I think so much can be said for having exercise. And also one other thing I'd like to add is ice baths as well. Doing something you don't want to do. But putting yourself in difficult situations, in tough times, and really pushing your body to the limit tells your mind that it can also do the same. Your mind is the weapon, not your body. It is what your mind is capable of achieving. Your body will just follow. It follows exactly what the mind tells it to do. And getting to the mind to a point where it can do absolutely anything is the ultimate goal. So yeah, thank you so much to Samantha. They're my thoughts on it. If you want to hear more of my thoughts, follow me on Instagram @JordanMulliganBrother and see what I get up to on a day-to-day basis. Today's video was sponsored by Mulliganbrothers.com, the best motivational clothing brand in the world, where you can now get the Rise and Grind series, the Hardest Worker in the Room series, and the Inspire Change series, all with the link in the description. If you purchase t-shirts or clothes or gym gear from Mulliganbrothers.com, 100% of the profits go back into creating this content, and we cannot thank you enough. You are helping support this movement, so thank you to everybody who's been a part of that. Have a blessed and productive day, guys. Go inspire some change through your action, move forward with passion and purpose, and sharpen this tool. The most important tool you're ever gonna have is your mentality.